Welcome to the Millionaire Mindcast, where we broadcast weekly interviews with millionaire minds from across the globe to empower you on your journey of unlocking a rich and fulfilling life. It's time to unleash your millionaire within. Now, here's your host, Matty A.
What's going on, guys? Welcome into another
Wealth Building
Wednesday. We got some great news and updates for you guys. A lot of stuff is trending in a positive direction right now. We're going to be covering, obviously, what's going on in the markets, unemployment numbers, stimulus, real estate, a lot of things to cover today. So we're going to dig right in. If you are new to the podcast and you haven't said what up to us yet, be sure to text in at 844-447-1555. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. If you are listening to this in your car on a workout, you haven't subscribed yet, any podcasting platform, you can subscribe as well. With that being said, we give away over $1,200 worth of gifts and prizes each and every month in our monthly contest giveaway. You can head over and enter that for free at go.millionairemindcast.com. All these links will be in the show notes or show description. If you're watching this on YouTube, drop us a comment below and say what up, where you're tuning in from, or you can text in a big hello and say what's up and where you're tuning in from to 844-447-1555. With that being said, a lot of market news this week.
Yeah, tons of stuff.
What'd you see, brother?
So this week, we're talking to you a couple days before you guys are hearing this, but we have earnings coming up for lots and lots and lots of companies on the S&P. I think I said a couple shows ago that I was kind of discounting what was to be expected from some companies prior to this happening. There's a lot of forecasts that come out in January and February. We are obviously over the past 45 days have had a lot of volatility from all sorts of directions. So there's a lot of what's the old saying? It's like a powder keg almost. Is that fair to say? So lots of dry powder right now. I think that how it's going to go, and I don't really know. I think how it's going to go though is there's going to be a lot of companies that did better than expected. So they didn't do as bad as analysts thought they were going to do. And that will send those stocks up or support the market. But then at the same time, I think there's going to be a lot of businesses that did a lot worse than were to be expected. So, I don't know if it's going to be a wash or if there's going to be enough good news to outweigh the bad news. And then let's say that there is too much bad news. What is the Fed going to step in and do? Because I was on a call with my dad my dad was on a call with Mohamed El-Erian, and he was talking.
Who is that, by the way?
He is one of the chief economic advisors for Allianz Life Insurance, Allianz SE. They're the second largest asset manager in the world behind BlackRock. They own PIMCO, which is the world's largest bond manager.
So they have a lot of insight.
He used to be, he sits on the board for Microsoft. He's a Forbes contributor. He used to be head of the International Monetary Fund, which has been in the news a lot lately. So very, very, very in the know guy. The whole gist of it is he doesn't have any idea what's going on. He's fairly bullish on the market. He thinks that layering on risk and small pieces in certain areas is a good idea right now. But the basics of it were the market's getting better. We don't really know when it's going to be a thumbs up time right yet. There still should be another leg down in our opinion, but that also could be fought off by the Fed. His verbatim, what he said is, I was completely bearish on the market until I saw the Fed demonstrate that they were willing to do anything to keep the market afloat. So they've currently just been getting into high-yield debt securities. I think if it gets worse and worse and worse, they're not going to be afraid to step in. And I was surprised they didn't step in and buy a bunch of oil or energy.
Why do you think they didn't?
I just don't think it's quite time yet. I just don't think it's quite. The markets, we're rebounded 20+%.
Yeah, what you and I loved what you put out. Your analysts and your group put out some amazing data for all of your clients on your opinion, at least, or outlook on oil and where there might be some great opportunities there. What about the market over the last week? What has it shown you? And for a lot of people that have been going, because you talked about that third leg down, right?
Yep.
And what that being at least seen in previous crises and economic shifts, and we haven't seen that third one yet. Do we have to see that third one, or is now time to maybe get back in the game?
Yeah, depending on who you ask. I mean, there's some people that will say absolutely it has to happen. There's some people that say, it doesn't necessarily have to. I don't. The market doesn't have to do anything it doesn't want to do. This recovery is not supposed to happen, and it's happening. The market dropping that fast is not supposed to happen, and it happened. So there's a lot of things that have been going on in our current investment kind of world that's not supposed to be happening or is new. And so, a lot of the things in the past, the financial crisis of 2008, that was kind of new. The oil market dropping, that was new. So all these things are, even though they haven't happened
things that
before,
have never happened in the history of our economy or global economy, right?
Yeah, but now that they have happened, now we have a parameter of how to deal with them, and we'll be better for it moving forward. So it's you can look at it two ways. You can say, oh no, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, or you can say, oh wow, it happened, we're recovering from it, and now we have that as a parameter to learn and move forward. And I think more people are following that latter sentiment than the first. I was a little late today because there was traffic coming in.
I know, I was I sent him a response back, and I was like, that's a good thing.
It is a good thing.
Because we haven't had, which has been great. The commute in and out of, at least to my office, has been awesome.
Dead.
But I will say this much: I'm the reason for having traffic, I miss, right? That means people are busy, they're moving to and from, money's moving to and from, right? And that, obviously is just a sign of how people are out and about.
Yeah, and
or at least getting back to being out and about.
Yep, and hats off to everybody that's kind of gone through this together. It's not been a fun time to be inside and making the sacrifices. We're in California, so we're making up there with the top level of sacrifices with everybody out.
Yep.
I'm excited for the states that are reopening. I think it's an awesome, awesome, awesome idea if your state decides that it's time to get back to business. I'm happy for I'm going to Texas in a month, full disclosure. I'm going to be out there. I booked a trip to go out there myself because I need to get out of the house. But I think it's going to be really good for business. And I think what that does is by being a leader and taking, the step when everybody else is maybe scared or holding back, that's going to set the example for the rest of the states. And if it's done properly, which that's what I'm holding my fingers up for, if it's done properly and it's not just this flash flood of people back doing exactly what they were doing prior to this, I think we're going to see the economy, that next little prop up for the economy, and that could maybe there's our third leg getting kicked off right there,
Yeah, because we haven't necessarily seen how the economy is going to respond. Well, one, there's the health side of it, right, that we have to kind of learn as we go and utilize at least as much data and information responsibly as we can to make sure that there's not some massive wave of reinfections, right, or spike, because then that obviously is going to have its recourse, and they're going to have to do something about it. And so it's going to be really interesting to see what this next 30 days as states start to reopen a little bit and how they follow specific guidelines and recommendations. One from obviously CDC, our government and all the bodies that are kind of leading the way, but also then giving that permission to governors and local and regional governing bodies to kind of self manage and how that looks. I think the next 30 days are going to kind of be, I don't want to say like an experiment, but it kind of is, right? Like we're all learning as we go. And so it'll be interesting to see how that, one, with the reopening and the health side of it also ties in with the economic side of it and how people are getting back to spending some money and patronizing businesses and getting out of their houses again and starting to do some of the normal things that we have kind of been restricted on doing.
Yeah, I think that what's probably going to happen is states are going to open up. I think a natural thing that's going to happen is there's going to be a spike in reports of infections, as there should be. But I think that's done by design because herd immunity is we have two options here. Herd immunity, which works for younger people who are healthy that can host the virus and their body can identify it and then make it so that they have a sort of quote-unquote immunity. The flip side to that, you do that in conjunction with vaccination. And what that running in parallel with vaccination helps a large population fight a pandemic. I think what's going to be interesting to see is when we do open up for business, which we are. There's a lot of states that are opening back up for business. I think you're going to see a spike in infections in those states, and I think a lot of people are going to freak out about that. But I don't think that that's an area to be cautioned on right away up front, because that's kind of supposed to happen. So we should see kind of the curve spike up again, and then we should see it go right back down, but a soft spike and a soft dip right back down. That is my opinion on what I think, and that's backed by we've kind of looked at some of the data, and that's this type of stuff has happened before back with in the early 1900s. You had places that did the social distancing, places that did not. Philadelphia versus St. Louis back in the early 1900s. Philadelphia did not. St. Louis did. St. Louis did the kind of thing that California's doing. When they opened back up, they had a spike in cases again, and then it went right back down because that was what herd immunity did. Then you had Pennsylvania. What was another? New York was another. Anytime you have big metropolitan areas, they're always an issue because they're dirtier. I mean, that's just what it is. So I'm digressing a little bit. But what I really think is going to happen is we're going to open up for business. We're going to have one more lull of spiking cases, and then everybody's going to go right back to their norm. And as I said 45 days ago, I think middle of May, which was my original prediction, end of April, we were going to be getting out of it. Middle of May, we're going to be pretty much getting back into the normal things. I think we're going to start talking about the vaccine, because it's definitely not out, and it's going to be months and months and months till it gets deployed.
All I know is I'm not taking that shit.
Whoever, I don't even know what's going on. We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Will you be my guinea pig, my testing guinea pig?
I haven't taken I don't want to say, but I haven't had a flu shot in like 5 or 6 years. But anyway, and then we're going to have, that is a catalyst for the market to go up. The vaccine being coming out and everything, because that's going to make consumer sentiment come up. And then businesses opening back up. The other side of the street, though, has a very big two catalysts that are looming. What is mortgage forbearance going to look like in 3 months? And as you mentioned, the thing that you mentioned earlier, I'll let you bring that up after this. What comes from that? What are people spending on right now? They're leveraging. They're not spending cash because they don't have it.
Yep.
And then what is this data? We have all this bad data, and the data, potato, coming out, and the market keeps going up. What happens when that data starts rearing its ugly head and it starts showing, when the unemployment starts showing?
Yes.
It hasn't quite started showing yet. And so there's two sides, and I don't know if one's stronger than the other. So those are the two things that I'm kind of looking for.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And to expand real quick on why I'm not going to get that vaccine, right, is not that I don't believe in vaccines, but if it's the measles or polio, something that I know is going to kill me and has a high, mortality rate, I'm about it. I'll consider that for sure.
It doesn't have a high mortality rate though.
But when you look at, and just the example that TechCrunch put out an article this last week, USC and the LA County of Health teamed up. They did the first mass testing in the U.S. And what they found was, and it was an antibody testing, right? Because they're trying to get a gauge for how many people actually have potentially had this thing or shown signs of having this thing. And what they found was, on the high side, potentially 450,000 cases of people who have already had coronavirus just in LA County. And so when we have 3 million, I'm looking at the coronavirus dashboard right now, we have 3 million cases worldwide. And in one mass testing in one county in the U.S., and there's 450 potential thousand cases, which is about 13% over all of this in one testing. What I believe, and again, my wife and I have been going back on this because she's very, we got to hunker down. I'm going, okay, let's look at the facts and let's look at the data and let's be responsible and let's still do obviously what's being recommended. But in the bigger picture of things, let's also still live our lives and not live in fear, right?
Yeah.
Which a lot of people are doing. And I get it because this is new. And if you look at the data and you say how many more when we get mass testing, people are going to have had contracted coronavirus, and we're not going to see a spike in deaths. We're just going to see a spike in people who had infection, right?
Yep, that's what I
Therefore,
think.
We're going to see the mortality rate drop closer and closer and closer down to that flu line. I'm going, okay, this is a new form of flu. Yes, it's real. Yes, it's respiratory. Yes, it's dangerous. All of these things. And yet this is also something that we're just going to have to live with as a part of life, right?
Yeah.
So with that being said, there's a lot of fear that has been driving what people are or aren't doing in their day-to-day lives, in the economy, how they're managing or spending their money or conserving their money, right? And all those kind of things. And so I point that out not to have a conversation on testing or vaccines or anything like that, but to go, how do we cut through all of the emotion around this and make sure we're going back to the data like you were saying, right?
Yep.
So with that being said, to kind of recap on a couple of stats this week, well, unemployment numbers, crazy.
Bad.
Crazy.
Over
I mean, they're saying it's pushing towards that potentially 20% mark. And mind you, let's say the total number of new jobless claims over the past 5 weeks, 26.4 million. So that wipes out all 22.4 million jobs recovered since the great financial crisis. And often what they're reporting is there's a lot of unemployment figures that aren't accounted for in that number. You got cash workers, you got immigrants, you got people that are 1099 consultants that are out of work, you got people that just haven't been able to get through the system yet because of the bottleneck and the backlog. So that number is probably still underreported, and that's something that obviously we got to be paying attention to, right?
Yeah. That's the stuff you're talking about is exactly what I'm saying. Like once that, I feel like that's
really catches up and people feel like they have a true grasp on what.
Well, we've had good market data to kind of distract people from when that news is coming out. So like this is what I'm worried about: mortgage forbearance becoming an issue,
which we can update on that,
and that becoming headline news, and then also having bad unemployment data continue to go up. People are going to be like, well, now we have people remember from 2008, it was a mortgage crisis. We have mortgages. That's going to drive sentiment down, which is a huge area that supports the market.
Yep.
So that is an area that I am concerned about. And then as you were mentioning earlier this morning when we were talking, consumer debt.
Credit cards.
Not only on the credit card side, but then you couple that with the mortgage thing. So there's a few still,
So here's a quick little update. As of last week, you guys know I've been tracking the forbearance curve, right? We're talking about flattening the COVID curve. I'm paying attention to the flattening of the forbearance curve. And here's the thing. We have not hit any kind of plateau yet. So update as of last week. Last week, Black Knight reported that 2.9 million mortgages were in forbearance, 5% of all mortgages in the U.S. As of this week, Black Knight updated their numbers to 6.5% of all mortgages in the U.S., up to 3.4 million mortgages. So that's a 70% increase week over week.
Yep.
So we're still seeing that continue to increase. And again, if we get a backstop on when we're going to start to reopen, which we're starting to see some of those conversations happening and some states starting to take action on that, maybe we'll start to see some of those numbers soften a little bit with some of the concerns and financial and economic impacts that people are experiencing right now. However, still think we got some runway to see this thing out, which ultimately, again, I'm going to keep you guys updated week over week on what we think or what we see going on with forbearances. Because again, if those forbearances don't turn into deferment and put on the back end of the loan, those people, right, who are out of work or their tenants are out of work, they're not just going to magically come up with 4 months of payments. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how that. And here's a crazy number just for you guys to understand where we started in March. March 2nd, the amount of forbearances recorded, 25%.
Not 25%.
I'm sorry, 0.25%.
There you go.
So 0.25% of all mortgages in the U.S. Exactly. I'm not the numbers guy, right? Jumped all the way up over the last 60 days to 6.5%. That's massive.
Yeah.
And that could turn into a mortgage crisis, right?
Yes, it could. It absolutely could. That's exactly what happened. People were not paying their mortgages. That's what happened in 2008.
Yep. So pay attention to that. To give you guys some quick updates, at least in regards to the housing markets. First,
we're good.
JP Morgan Chase put a pause on all HELOCs due to the credit crunch fears. So they just reported that this last week. So you're starting to see, again, just more and more examples of financial institutions with big pockets, right? Go, nope, tightening of the belt. Or that door that was open, that one's now shut. That product that was on the table, no longer, right? So again, starting to see those things and also pay attention to them reopening those things or creating some opportunity to leverage those things will be something that will give some more confidence as to where things are heading as well. Housing starts. Privately owned housing starts declined last month on an annualized rate of 1.2 million recorded by the U.S. Census Bureau. So that represents 22% from the pace in February. So we're already seeing, right, a lot of economic uncertainty
They
start
were still
to show
better
up.
though than expected.
They were, and here's what I will say.
Yeah,
so
they were still better. I was going to say that report was about, I think it was 1.5.
So U.S. home sales fell 8.5% in March, according to National Association of Realtors. And again, on May 4th, they will report what happened in April. So we'll be paying attention to that. And you can expect April's probably going to be a little bit worse. But here's the thing. It isn't all gloom, though. People who were selling in March saw their property stay on the market an average of 29 days, which was actually moving faster than it was month over month and year over year before, according to NAR. So total inventory was also 2.7% higher at the end of the month, but down 10.2% from this point last year. So we're still seeing some strength in the market right now, which is interesting. Even with demand getting slashed, even with inventory going up a little bit, we're still seeing properties go into contract. But a recent report by Fannie Mae predicts home sales will fall by 15% this year as the economy contracts. Again, this is all projections. We don't know. And when you got big institutions that are putting out numbers like this, you can expect they're going to be somewhere in the ballpark. So we know we're going to see some softening of prices. So you're going to see people obviously putting houses on the market.
And cutting
right?
that. What I'm seeing a lot is the houses that are on the market, the people are like, they're
slashing prices
by a lot.
They're willing to negotiate
5-10% sometimes.
One of my coaching clients, and we were just talking about this, he found an opportunity on the MLS that was listed relatively high for the condition the home was in, and through just negotiations and consistent follow-up and staying in touch with the sellers, he ended up getting a massive discount. And I crunched the numbers with him left, right, and every way you could just to be conservative, right, and make sure that he's going to win on this one, as I do with all my coaching clients. And I mean, I try to poke as many holes in this opportunity as possible, and he got it at such a great deal, and he's going to flip it, and he's probably going to make $150,000 on this one flip. He wouldn't have been able to get that deal pre-coronavirus, I can tell you that much. So there are still a lot of opportunities to make money in real estate right now.
Yes, sir.
There are a lot of opportunities to make money in the stock market right now.
There's always a bull market somewhere, guys.
But you got to be aligned with, well, one, you either need to know what you're doing at a really high level, right? Or just have the counsel and the people around you to help make sure that, like I did with Ben, ensuring that, hey, we've looked at this every way that you could potentially lose money. And even if this, and this happened in 10 different worst case scenarios, you're still going to come out ahead on this one, right? So real opportunity is still out there, you guys. You just got to pay attention to the data, pay attention to what's going on in your local market, and also just trust in the mentors and the people that you have around you. With that being said, what are some of the things that people should be paying attention to this go around with stimulus money?
I think that again, I'm not a huge fan of a lot of people that are just don't apply for the stuff if you don't need it. I know a lot of CPAs are pushing courses and classes so you can pay them to help you get that because they want to help you protect your payroll. If you're an S corporation, pass-through entity, and you're protecting your own payroll, just don't do that. It throws off the numbers and it makes it hard for people to fix the economy as is. So any CPAs out there listening to me probably thinking all stinky about me, shame on you. Don't take advantage of this kind of stuff. It's like taking advantage of a FEMA crisis. Just don't do that. Secondly, I think it's good that the SBA is going to get another injection of cash. I think that they're going to run out of it again, though.
For sure. How many stimulus rounds should we be expecting? Because there's been talks of
unlimited.
There's been talks of as many as needed, right?
Unlimited. I will.
Do you have
my
any
bottom dollar? They will not stop.
What are your thoughts on some of the next waves of stimulus that
they'll throw cash at it until all they're going to do is kick it down the road on top of the deficit, and they'll let somebody else deal with it in 15 or 20 years. That's what's happening. So I will have to deal with it. You will have to deal with it long term. But no, they'll do anything. And by they, I mean the current administration in conjunction with the Fed. The Fed will do anything. So I do not see a limit to what they will do. I don't see a cap on how much they'll put into it, it being the economy or the pockets of people. I just think anything is on the table at this point for whatever has to be done.
Do you feel like the first go around there was a lot of talk on obviously most of that money going to big corporations instead of the small business owner who it was ultimately said it was for, right? And at least from some of the research I did and some of the studies and reports that people released is the big corporations, their lobbyists did exactly what they were paid to do. They were in there writing up certain things that they could slip into that bill, and ultimately that's what they did on some of the bigger hospitality and retail chains that people were like, how the hell did they get that much money when they're sitting on that much cash? This for, taking out of the pockets of the small business owner that this was said it was for in the first place, and they worked in those little loopholes, right? How much of this money do you think is actually going to make it into the hands of the people who need it most?
Well, I think that fool me once, shame on me.
Right.
Fool me twice, kind of deal. I think that more is going to be allocated to or, made available to the small business owner. Again, going back to what I just said prior, I don't think if you're a company or a corporation that has a lot of cash, like the airlines that are crying that they don't have money, but your balance sheets are public and I can see you're sitting on billions of dollars in cash, you don't need to apply for this. This is just part of being a business. This is part. If the human consumer and the American consumer is expected to weather this storm, then the American business owner and business should also be expected to do the same. If that means they have to lose money on profits and executives have to take pay cuts, that's what should happen. You're going to see crying and moaning from executives of these airlines, of these energy companies, of these hospitality companies saying they cannot do this. But when Booking.com Holdings has a share price of $1,300 a share with 400 million shares outstanding, I promise you there's some meat on the bone to be taken off there. So it may not be what they want to do, but I think that, again, like what you're saying, we need to be focusing on the people who need it the most, and that's the small business owner, because the small business owners are really what drive the large businesses to be profitable.
Yep. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how this all goes around. And again, guys, we don't have a crystal ball. But the data is the best thing that can give you some type of forecast as to what's going on based on, one, past data, and also just the correlations between what's happening right now and what we're tracking we think is going to happen, and seeing how when it does play out, what that actually looks like when you connect those dots, right? So stay engaged. If you guys have any questions for us, be sure to text us 844-447-1555. If you want more information on our upcoming wealth camps, we got some exciting stuff there. Text the word wealth camp to 844-447-1555. Question today from guest Jordan Urbanick. Jordan asks, what is your advice for a medical professional that wants to make real estate investing their second job? Well, first and foremost, medical professionals, they make some good money. And first and foremost, medical professionals and any essential worker right now, big shout out to you guys. If you're listening in and the work and the sacrifice that you're putting in right now, unbelievable. So super grateful for you guys and everything that you're doing and all that you're putting on the line for us during this wild time. Second part of that is medical professionals make some good money. And therefore, if they have a great plan on what to do with that money, Jordan, you may not be a medical professional as long as you think you need to be, unless you want to be, right? With that being said, I know a lot of medical professionals that have used their cash, their vertical income that they show up and work their butt for every single day, and they take that income and they strategically leverage it into horizontal passive income assets that pay them without them having to show up to that job, right? So ultimately what I would say, my advice for you, Jordan, is number one, you need to talk to somebody to help you map out a plan. Whether that's someone like Ryan, whether that's someone like myself, whether that is both of us to help you kind of strategically map out that roadmap. Because really what I would say is, do you want to have a second job, right? Or do you want to just have another vehicle that generates wealth for you without you having to show up for it every single day? And so based on that, I would say, what's the goal? What is the goal with real estate investing, and why do you want to get into it as a second job, right? Is it ultimately just to unlock more freedom because you think the cash flow will give you more leverage and time, not only one, to build wealth, but to spend that time and that money how you please? Because if that's the ultimate end goal, then it would change the plan that we create for you, right? And therefore, it would change the strategy and the vehicle within that strategy that we leverage in order for you to go out and generate and achieve that goal and that kind of income. So that's really where I always start with that, right? Just like you reverse engineer, you're like, hey, what do you want to accomplish and by when? Exactly. All right, cool. Here's how much money you need. Here's what vehicle we're going to put it into, which is what Ryan did with me and a lot of my money, and what he does with a lot of Millionaire Mindcast listeners as well. So be sure to reach out to him first and foremost to see, because he always says, hey, you need to talk to Matt. You need to put this money into real estate, or hey, here's how I can help you achieve this goal. Vice versa, I do the same exact thing. It's what is the goal? When do you want to accomplish it by, and why, right? Because then we can really reverse engineer what the right roadmap is for you. So for someone that wants to make real estate investing their second job, right, that's where I would start. Then we can figure out, after going into the clouds, what we need to do on the ground and kind of the air game versus the ground game. What do we need to execute on over the next 3, 5, 10 years in order for you to accomplish that goal, right? Then from there, right, having a mentor, having somebody holding you accountable to that plan, to that strategy is going to be very important, because then it just becomes a game of execution. Once you're clear on that plan, then it just comes down to rolling up the sleeves and getting it done, right? Yep. So with that being said, if you have more questions, Jordan, that you want to discuss, shoot us a text message, 844-447-1555, and anybody else, because right now is the time to start planning and sharpening your axe for what could be a once-in-a-generational, once-in-a-lifetime wealth-building opportunity when it comes to real estate. I don't like using the word guarantee, but I can almost promise you that if you do what is needed now and you position yourself now and you kind of dig the well before you're thirsty and actually want the water, there's going to be a tsunami of opportunity that you can, right? What does Warren Buffett say on the bucket? It's like basically when there's gold, flying from the sky, you don't pick up a thimble, you pick up a bucket, right? Yep. And that's ultimately what I believe is going to come in real estate investing. And so one thing that I did create for many of you guys who are new to real estate investing, and you've been having this question into the show all the time, is how do I get started if I don't have any experience or any money or a team around me and I'm new? And this could be perfect for someone like you, Jordan. If you text the word invest to 844-447-1555, the word invest, you will get a free 3-part training. It's a free real estate course that I created, 3-part training course for anybody that's new, wants to capitalize on the real estate recession without needing any money or experience. And I show you how to find, analyze, and fund profitable investment opportunities. Free, super easy, super cool way to, get started and get your footing, so then you can kind of figure out what next steps are. So if you want to check that out, just text the word invest to 844-447-1555. Ryan has some really exciting trainings coming up as well that we're going to be offering to you guys for free as well, just to learn and educate. And should you want somebody to kind of help you take it to that next level, you guys can reach out to Ryan. So we'll have more information on that. Text the word Wealth Camp to the same phone number if you guys want more information on our upcoming Wealth Camp experiences. We got some exciting stuff coming up in October as well. And any final parting thoughts?
No, just like I was saying, any listeners out there that are on the sidelines, we had a lot of people take the dive many weeks ago, and they're profiting because of it.
Yes, they have. A lot of the people who reached out to you are very happy that they did so.
Yeah, so please don't hesitate to reach out. You can always get me at my Instagram. Shoot me a DM at rbreedwell. My email is ryanbreedwell@capital spelled with an O, planninggroup.com. Or give me a call on my cell phone, 707-372-2207.
We'll have all of those links and information also in the show notes or show description. Millionaire Mindcast, or if you're on YouTube, just check those below. Again, if you guys enjoyed this episode, you enjoy hearing us, talk about what's going on in the market, either share it with a friend, a family member, somebody that you think it can give them a little bit of extra encouragement or courage to take the next step or to do something a little bit differently. That's why we do this show. And I just like hanging out with you, bro. You my
Ditto, man. Ditto.
So if you guys want any kind of support or information, again, reach out to us. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss another episode. And with that being said, my final parting thought is, we've been talking about separation season. Right now has been one of the greatest gifts I think all of us have ever been given in our lifetime. And when we look back on this, hindsight 50-50, we'll go, man, like when the world stopped, when the world that the axes that the world was spinning on stopped, right? And we all were given this gift for 30, 60, 90 days to actually focus on what's important, to recalibrate, to re-engage, to, I've been saying separation season. You're going to know when this whole thing lifts, and in 6, 12, 24 months, who was really putting in the work on themselves, on their businesses, on their relationships, on their finances, on their health during this time. Because there's a lot of people sitting on their hands and eating Cheetos and bullshitting on stuff that ultimately isn't going to help them get anywhere when it comes to this thing getting back to normal. And so if you're putting in the work right now and you're using this gift to separate yourself, because I'm saying I want to separate myself from who I am right now. Like who I was pre-corona, I want to look back post-corona and go, man, I transformed, I 2.0'd myself into somebody new in that process because I took the gift of time and I leveraged it to get in proximity and put in the work on the areas that matter most. Yeah. So if you're not putting in time right now, which I know you are because you're listening to this show, right, to forge somebody new in this season that we're in right now, to weaponize yourself, to separate yourself from your competition or from the old you or from the old relationship that wasn't that great with your spouse or your partner or with your kids. And you can use this time to look back and go, man, I gained some massive ground. I got 2, 3, 4 steps ahead of everybody else because I put in the work, which I know both you and I are doing, and many other people like you who are reaching out to us, texting us at 844-447-1555 are doing. You're going to be really grateful that you did. So just wanted to put that at the forefront of what are you focusing on today? What are you leaning into today? What are you sharpening the axe on today? Really, really important because you're going to be grateful that you did when you see how much separation you create from the masses, the 99.5% of the planet that is not doing that right now. So with that being said, keep investing in yourself and your wealth on your march to $1 million and beyond. We'll see you guys next week.
See you next week, guys.